Hey everyone, this is Brennan Patrick and Hayden Dale recording our sealed gameplay for Channel Fireball. If you want to check out the videos where we open the packs, evaluate the cards, and build our decks, you can find that somewhere in the description below or somewhere linked above or below this video. With that said, Hayden, I see you have some cards laid out for us, so why don't you walk us through your deck?
Yeah, just quickly talk through what's happening on my side of the table, Brennan. So I've got Prism today. It's kind of what my seal pool threw out to me. It was a reasonably interesting seal pool, but I think the Prism deck that I have here was just a little bit stronger than the other options. I'm at 28 cards in my main deck here, and then I have 5 options depending on matchup. So 3 cards here, these 2 Impenetrable Beliefs and a red Blinding Beam that I wanted to play against Shadow Heroes, or potentially this Blinding Beam into a matchup where I thought they might have multiple 6 attacks. Against Boltyn, I'm less inclined to do that. I think it can just be a cost. Other side, I've got a yellow Overload and a blue Warmongers. Yellow Overload is kind of another semi-win condition for my deck. I do have quite a few pumps, things like Warmongers Recital and Enlightenments, things like that. So another way to potentially sort of stack an end game. And then Warmongers Recital, to be honest, is just a blue that I can pitch. So I'm going to go with these 2, given that Brennan's on Boltyn today. And yeah, Brennan, what's happening on your side of the table?
Yeah, so today I'm on Boltyn. I have 3 cards laid out that I actually only plan to play into Shadow Heroes, and even then, maybe not. So I have a pretty strong 30 cards. I don't need to add any more cards to my deck to meet the minimum deck requirement. So with that, all these cards are going to go. One thing to note is I did open the full suite of armor: Hail of Illumination, Bloodjaw Brocade, Gallantry Gold, very key for me, and then the Ironhide Legs. With that said, what makes my Boltyn deck strong, in my opinion, is actually some of the commons that I opened. I opened some very, very strong commons, and not too many Majestics, but luckily in Flesh and Blood, sometimes the commons are the strongest cards you can get. And one thing to note is the way we like to do these gameplay videos is talk through all of our lines, what's going through our head. So I may be presenting information to Hayden, and he will be doing the same back to me. But we do our best to ignore that in the hopes that we kind of bring you into our thought process and how we decide to play out the games and what's going through our head. So with that, do you want to roll, Hayden?
Yep, I'm just grabbing a dice here. Would you like odd or even, Brendan?
I'll take even.
It's a 1, nice. It's odd. So I'm gonna go second here. I'll let you start us off. As Prism, generally in this format, I want to go second, as much as possible. But with Prism, I get the added benefit of potentially being able to play an Aura out on turn 1. I do have a couple in my deck here, and I prefer Brennan not to be going first as well, not to get that sort of first proper attack if he goes second. That being said, though, he does have the Hail of Illumination, which, Brennan, how do you feel about that card in general?
I think it's a very good card. It's a very good turn 0 card. It is going to mitigate the downside of me having to go first here. I would much prefer to go second against Prism. So if Hayden decides to throw a big Herald at me, I can kind of just throw 3 cards in front of it, and it's whatever. If I am going first, he is going to either likely hit me for a lot of damage or take cards out of my hand. So I do prefer to go second. That being said, because of Halo Illumination, going first is okay for me. I can also potentially charge a card as well. So there's a lot of options for me, but go ahead and start it off.
Take us away.
Yep. So it looks like we will be using Halo of Illumination on this turn, and it's going to be a pretty boring turn at that. So we're going to pitch... we're going to pitch pound for a pound yellow. We're going to break Halo of Illumination, and then we're going to charge a blue Adrenaline Rush. I will not draw because it's not a light card, and then I will go ahead and Arsenal and pass to you.
Straight to me. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't get a chance to filter out some of these cards in our hand that I would have liked to. The other thing as well is that if Brendan opts not to filter cards out, it could say to me that he has potentially a 6 attack in hand that he wants to hold on to for my turn, where I might have, a Phantasm card, a big Herald to come on with. So that being said, unfortunately we don't have a way to get something into our solid and speed. We don't have a Halo of Illumination like Brendan does, unfortunately, which I think is really important equipment for both the light heroes. So we do have a card with Phantasm, and it's a card that I'm happy to throw, and if Brendan does have a 6 attack, we'll take that out of his hand. We might be a little bit behind, but we will get a card in Arsenal and just look to set up the game from there. So we're going to pitch Yellow Overload, which we're happy to get, to the bottom for late game, and we'll play blue Spears of Surreality. So coming in for 3 with Go Again and Phantasm.
Yep, so that is why Aiden is a calling champion, because he reads that exactly. I do have the 6 attack, so I will break that Phantasm.
Yep, no worries. So that's going to end our turn. We'll just throw this card into our arsenal and pass back to you, Brendan. Yeah, happy to.
There.
There's going to be, a finite number of 6 attacks that Brennan can have. So happy to, lose a card there, but get that out of Brendan's hand.
Use the card, gain an arsenal. So I'm going to pitch blue Seek Enlightenment, and I'm going to play red Brandish for 3. If it hits, my next attack gets +1.
I'm pretty keen to defend this out. I don't really want the hatches getting a +1. The other thing Brendan can do is he can come for 3 here, then come for an attack, and then come in with the hatchet, so he doesn't have to come with the hatchet straight away, which is important to note. And our hand's not super exciting. So we'd actually be perfectly happy to block out with most of our hand here and just come in with the Illuminate. We have an arsenal next turn. But I don't want this Brandish to hit if that's the way we're going to play it. So we're going to go ahead and defend with this yellow War-Tune Herald for 3.
Okay. And we're going to play an interesting line here, mainly because we don't want to put this card in our arsenal. We could present a lot more damage than we will be doing this turn. But going to value that 5-card hand potentially. So I'm going to play Dustpath Pilgrimage. We're down to 1 resource. I'm going to swing Hatchet of Mind for 5.
5. Reasonable attack. So yeah, we have an option here. We can stick on our plan of wanting to defend out here with our hand for 5. So we know that Brendan no longer has any resources left. So if he did want to go again and come in with that other hatchet, he'd have to pitch his last card. We do have a play where we could actually use Time Skippers on our turn to try and put some pressure on and come in with 2 cards, which is not actually the worst play, especially since we're actually a little bit behind in this match after the first turn. Would mean taking 5. But this 5 here is not as consequential as other 5 damage could be with on-hit effects or allow Brennan to charge a soul, or whatever it might be, sort of cards like Illuminate and get cards into soul. So I'm going to go with that line here. It allows us to present, up to 10 damage on our turn. And you get a card into soul. So yeah, Brendan, I'm going to take that here and go down to 15. Or any attack reactions?
Yes, I will react. So I will give it go again.
Yep.
And then I also will pop upon hit. So not technically reaction. We're going to pop Blood Drop.
So I go to 15, and you get a resource from the Brigade.
And you're down to 15.
Yep, I am correct.
So with this last resource, we are going to swing for 3.
Yep. This play becomes a little bit worse now, but it has gotten a card out of Brendan's Soul for the effect, the go again effect, and pop that Brigade. So I think we can be okay with this, and we didn't take too much. So we'll take the 3, head down to 12.
Down to 12, we will Arsenal pass.
Yeah. I would have liked Brendan not to have the 5-card hand as well, preferably, plus the damage, but we'd use the Brigade. So our turn, pitch a blue Warmongers to Time Skippers. So we get 2 action points. And then we'll pitch blue Stony Wootenhog, and we'll come in with red War-Tune Herald for 7 here. So if Brendan does have the 6 attack, it's pretty favourable for him here. But if he doesn't, we're threatening to get a card into our soul if he doesn't block with a minimum 2 cards plus the Gallantry, possibly 3 cards. And then we have another action point with 2 resources up.
Yeah, it's a weird situation for us at this point, to say the least.
So the main reason for me making this play is, we do take a bit of damage here, but we get to present back to try and push back on what Brendan's trying to do. We want to try and take some tempo. We either want to force Brendan to break up his 5-card hand, or push damage and then get a card into soul, which is really important for Prism. It's going to allow us to potentially block out with 3 cards on our turn, or 2 or 3 cards, and still be able to do something on our turn.
Just thinking here.
We like to put him in tough situations, make him think.
We know he doesn't do it often, right? So we charge.
We do still have to consider that Brennan does have the Gallantry Gold up, both as an equipment and as a ability on, for a big turn where he can give those hatchets +1 and guaranteed he's going to be able to get up to be able to give them go again if he needs to. And then also the Iron Hide legs, which could come in handy.
No blocks.
Okay, so you're going to go down to 13.
Yep.
Feels reasonably scary. So War Tune's going to go into our soul, and we've got 2 resources left plus an action point. We're just going to come in with yellow Illuminate for 3.
Yep, expected that one. We could obviously, pitch here. We're just considering our turn. Hayden has no arsenal. And let me just think if this is like do the exact math. So we're, yeah, so we're going to be able to present lethal. So it's going to be a good pivot turn for us. So with that, we will take 3, go to 10.
Cool, so in place 12, and this is going to go into our soul.
Yeah, not excited about him having a soul, but it's now going to be a question for us. Are we going to be able to present enough pressure so he can't do anything with that, right?
Time to find out.
All right. So we will start it off with a take flight. We will charge the tremor, and then we're going to float 1 resource.
Mm-hmm.
This has go again.
So for
4 or 5.
4
or 5.
Yep, 5 if I do decide to block out with an attack action card here. Unfortunately for us, we do have some. Well, unfortunately, we have some cards that don't block super well. We've got a few cards that do block for 2, but they are non-attack actions, so it does help us a little bit here. So this has natural go again, and I'm probably now more worried about the fact that Brennan decided not to defend with Gallantry Gold. Tells me that maybe he isn't wanting to use it this turn, but it could also be, a bit of a bluff. Because we can. I mean, ideally, we want to be able to keep 2 cards to create a spectral shield and come in with it on our turn. It's probably going to be pretty difficult this turn with what Brennan wants to do. Our other option is just to defend out with most of our hand and potentially keep one of these non-attack actions to Arsenal for a later turn. They're always fine to play out of Arsenal because of our heralds and the like. So I think on this one we can probably be okay to take the 4 and then navigate the rest of the turn with how we defend. Yep, so we'll go ahead and take the 4 here to 8. Brennan, unless there's any attack reactions?
No attack reactions.
Okay. So down to 8. You go again.
Yeah, so we're going to play Battlefield Blitz with our final resource. It's going to be for 4 or 5. It does have go again because I charged this turn.
Yep. Pretty reasonable.
Yeah, good combo here. Take flight in the Battlefield Blitz. It's not too common you see it.
Yeah, so the card I'm really worried about now. You have any resources left, Brendan?
I have no resources left. What are you worried about?
1 card. Well, I was worried about Valiant Thrust for 7, but since you have only 1 card in hand and no resources, I'm a lot less worried about that now.
Yeah.
That card can be pretty devastating on a big turn like this. So we have to think that, a card that Brennan could possibly have is something like Illuminate. Illuminate Red would be good for him here to present 4 damage, possibly 5 if we blocked with a non-attack, with an attack action, sorry. So I think what we'll do is I really want to defend some of this, maybe with an attack action, take a couple of points of damage, and then be prepared if he does come in with something like Illuminate. It's just navigating what we can do on our turn. If he doesn't do that, we want to make sure we still have a play, because we're going to be left with cards. Option here is actually we could just not defend here at all. Put us to 4, and then we could use our 2 non-attack actions to block out anything, and then still be able to make a spectral shield and come in with it on our turn. Which would be a reasonable amount of pressure. Both be playing 4 cards into 4 cards. We'd be at 4 life. and at 10, and us with a spectral shielding attacking. I think I'm okay with that. It still puts us a little bit behind. But I think I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm going to take the 4 here, Brennan.
Okay, down
Go
to
to
4.
4.
It has to go again. So, as the Bolton player, we have a very interesting scenario to deal with here. Do we arsenal the card, or do we play it? It's not Illuminate, but it's essentially the same thing, let's say. So, obviously, we can get cards out of Hayden's hand. He's at 4 right now. But if we arsenal this card, Hayden needs to deal 11 damage to us. We're at 10. We have Gallantry Gold. And if we swing with a 5-card hand, we may just be in the driver's seat for the rest of this game. He will never be able to recover. So usually I would just slam it down, go for lethal. But I think the correct decision is going to be Arsenal Pass.
Okay. Yeah, I would have preferred Brennan to come in with something there. Utilize some of these cards in our hand a little bit better. So we have a bit of a decision on whether we make a Spectral Shield now, or if we just... We can present 9 damage on our turn, but it's not lethal. And Brennan's going to be playing the 5-card hand. Actually, I think a really smart play from Brennan there. He could, like he says, he could present the damage there and take some cards out of our hand. But now that I'm off just 4 life, he actually just wants to probably try and kill me on one turn. Just get across, more than what I can defend on a turn. He's got enough life to play with here that he, no matter what we can do, he can probably just tank it. So because there's the Gallantry Gold, there is actually a play here where we could come in for a total of 11 damage, which would force some sort of defense from Brendan, given that Ironhide. I think because now I'm quite worried about him playing cards out of a 5-card hand to kill me, I think I'm going to have to go with that play just to take some cards out of his hand. Otherwise, we probably are going to die on his next turn. It's very, very likely with that Gallantry Gold still up. So no effects at the end of turn. Brendan are in your Chainlink Resolution, but I'm going to play a Warmonger's Recital with this pushing this blue Enigma Chimera. Play Captain's Call, giving my next attack with cost 2 or less +2.
Yep.
And then because we're on less life, I'm going to play this Adrenaline Rush, which is going to be 6 by itself, +2, +3. So coming in for 11 total.
Yep, and 11 is the perfect number. So now we must consider.
Yeah, of course, if we came in for just 10 here, Brendan could use that Gallantry Gold and just go to 1.
10 would be super ideal for us. Bottom of our deck is a bit weak. Doesn't look like we're getting there, but games can go there sooner than you would think.
Yeah, sometimes they can surprise you, right? You get, a few turns of weak hands where people block out into each other. It can happen.
Yeah, so I'm going to block with Gallantry Gold and Ironhide Lake and pitch a Take Flight.
Is that a red Take Flight?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Red Take Flight.
Taking 8 here.
Yeah, you were coming for 11. I'm blocking for 3, taking 8, going to 2.
Yep. So Brennan on 2, myself on 4. Because of the Warmonger's Recital, we do hit with the Adrenaline Rush. It's going to go to the bottom of the deck as well. Cool. Okay, back over to you, Brendan. Let's see what you can do.
So here's the card we talked about. It was Engulfing Light. Should have been for 3 or 4. So it actually wasn't lethal. It was 1 off. We're going to charge Rising Solar Tide into our arsenal. So this is going to be for 3 or 4.
Okay.
We have 2 cards in hand, 0 resources.
So I have to think that Brendan wouldn't just come in with an attack for 3 here that I could defend out with non-attack actions and not give a buff to. So, Courageous Steel Hand becomes a pretty big consideration here for him to have because he is charging. So if he has the red, he could get this to 6 if we didn't block with a non-attack action. Unfortunately, we only have 1 non-attack action in our hand, which is a little bit awkward. We'd need to... Yeah, he's going to be able to give it a go again no matter what if he has the Courageous Steel Hand. One thing we can do is we could defend for 2 here. He does have it. We can make a Spectral Shield to prevent the lethal damage that would be coming through. So you could get it to 6. We'd block for 2 and then make a shield. So we'd go to 1. Then Brennan could go again, pop the Gallantry Gold, and we can only block once. So we might not be able to play around the Courageous, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that as you walk through that scenario, it's a bit of a checkmate because then I just come in with the, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So it's an interesting one because obviously we don't know what Brendan has in hand. Brendan knows what he has in hand. But just playing it through, that's the most likely scenario at this point. I think that he's probably got the Courageous, just based on how he's played this line. And I don't think there's really a way that... So the other option is to just block with 2 cards here. So could block for 4, for instance. Brendan could then make it to 7, would take 3 to 1. And we could block out with 2 cards. Problem Gallantry Gold just gets us there. And because we have attack actions and he's charged, those weapons are going to get +1 as well. So I think we're going to make the play to not play around this Courageous Steel hand because we just can't, unfortunately. And if it's yellow, then we still kind of play around it to an extent. So I'm going to go ahead here and block for 2, Brennan, with this second alignment.
So Hayden walked you through it, right? But unfortunately, Courageous Steel hand is like checkmate. If he over blocks it, we'll just use it, and then I'll get go again. I'll come in for 3, and then 4, and that's going to be 3 or 4, and then 4 or 5. So there's a lot dealing there. And if he had blocked it, then attack action. Like let's say he's like you said, he only has 1 non-attack action. So I don't even have to use the Courageous Steel hand on this. I can just get go again, banish from my soul, and the way Courageous Steel hand works, I can actually use it on my weapon. So it's like it's one of those scenarios where he just like he has to play to his outs, right?
Exactly.
Because if he doesn't, if he plays around it too hard, he just dies to it, later on these hatches. But with that said, I have both of them. So.
Sure. So is that yellow and red?
Yep, that is +5.
+5. So it's going to get Brendan to 8. We can make 2 Spectral Shields. Actually, we can't even make. We can make 1 Spectral Shield. So either way, that's going to do it. GG's, Brendan. Very close game. Very interesting game, actually, the way that played out. I think we had a pretty interesting decision probably last turn with how we wanted to block. We could have tried to keep more life. I think the problem there is that with Gallantry Gold still up, even if we were on, say, 8 life and got a Spectral Shield, Brendan was going to be in a pretty favorable position. We would need to then throw our next hand, and we're just so far behind. How do we ever get back into the game? And we wouldn't be able to protect the Spectral Shield. So I think just the first few turns of that game, with what Brendan was able to do to put the pressure on us and break the Spears of Surreality as well on the first turn there by holding that 6 attack was quite important. But yeah, well played, Brendan. Good game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to note the bottom of our deck, what we pitched as well. So we only pitched 4 cards that turn. It was Pound for a Pound yellow, Seek Enlightenment blue. Pretty weak pitch there, but then we went Cross the Line yellow and Take Flight red. So we did have an endgame setup. In this kind of matchup, I wouldn't expect too much to get there. Me and Hayden both took a lot of damage, but mostly recognizing that we could present like on turn 2, I was basically able to present lethal, and he was able to hit me for, I think it was 7 + 4 there. So you were able to hit me for 11. So yeah, the game went really quickly, but it's always important to track your pitch. And I always like to look at the end of the game and see if this is a hand I would like to draw or cards I would like to be, receiving in the late game. And I think this is a pretty solid pitch I have here at the bottom.
Yep, well put. I completely agree. My bottom wasn't as exciting as yours, although it did have some cards that defend for 3 and had an Adrenaline Rush and an Overload, so not the end of the world. A game that an in-game I might have tried to play forwards is having this Overload, trying to get something like a second Enlightenment or a Warmongers. I have a couple of second Enlightenments into the arsenal and wait for that Overload to come back around, but not to be. The game was nice and short, and yeah.
Do you think the kind of the pivot of that game was the breaking of the Spears of Surreality?
I think it's hard to say otherwise. Probably that was a pretty important turn. I think when we didn't play too many, there wasn't a bunch of turns through that game. That was probably a pretty important one. I think that and probably the prior turn as well. Could I have maybe defended a little bit differently and hoped to draw a combination of non-attacks and cards that defend for 3. I guess the one thing I was pretty concerned about with trying to be on a plan of defending is that I have two of these cards, two of these auras that don't defend for anything, and if plus this blue blinding beam, plus some cards that defend for 2. So that was kind of my consideration and the reason to take that Lineage Brennan there.
Mm-hmm. So I see that you have Herald of Tenacity and the Seek Enlightenment, and this really good way to close out the game. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that couple's amazing with Dreamweavers. But would you have, in retrospect, and this might be a bit biased / results oriented, but in retrospect, do you think that it was important enough to not get broken on the Spears of Surreality turn that you may have considered popping Dreamweavers just to gain tempo?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's hard to say when it's the first turn of the game, right? I felt pretty okay with you breaking it there, as I said at the time, get a card into Arsenal and get a 6 attack out of your hand, because we had another Herald to be able to play out. So I wasn't too sad about it, but I guess just the pressure you were able to put on me meant that, I guess in retrospect, maybe we would have wished to have done that, but try not to play games too much like that for sure.
For sure. Well, good game, Hayden, and I hope all of you watching found this helpful and insightful. Again, if you want to see the videos where we rip open the packs, talk about the cards, and build the decks, that's somewhere in the description or linked above or below this video. Those videos will be unlisted, so you will need to click those links to find them. With that said, thanks so much for joining me, Hayden, and we will see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.